Okay, all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, the camera is set. Let's begin this journey into the great unknown. Lights, camera, action. Well, this is where this journey begins. This is a lot of miles, it's a lot of time solo on the road. It's a lot of covering territory in extreme conditions. The visibility right now is damn near down to zero. This is absolutely insane. I spent the last 365 days mentally preparing. You're constantly on edge of what could go wrong, what will go wrong, how am I going to overcome it. Minus 25 degrees, and that is just not survivable. This truly becomes a life or death situation. All that smoke right there is coming from the diesel exhaust, which means it's not getting enough oxygen. When you actually find the culprit of the problem, there's satisfaction in that, especially when your life depends on it. 2,110 miles since I left Northwest Washington, 51 hours and 45 minutes worth of driving. I've been all the way up the length of British Columbia into the Yukon. Right now, we've got nothing but the open road all the way to the Arctic. It is currently minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. I am standing out here on this vast tundra in the Arctic. As far north as you can possibly drive in all of North America. This highway is no joke. Well, this is where this journey begins. It's currently 5 a.m. It's Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. I'm here in Bellingham, Washington. It's probably going to be a month by the time I return back here. It's a lot of time solo on the road. I have spent the last 2 weeks prepping the van mechanically, getting all my gear sorted, making sure that all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted here on the van. I spent the last 365 days mentally preparing. I've been thinking about making this trip all the way to Dead Horse since a year ago, after making my trip to Tuktoyaktuk in the Arctic Ocean. This isn't just a leisurely drive. This is a lot of miles. It's a lot of covering territory in extreme conditions. It's a lot of time solo in remote places. You're constantly on edge. What could go wrong? What will go wrong? How am I going to overcome it? How am I going to keep myself safe? How am I going to get myself all the way there and all the way back? A lot of this is really learning to push outside your comfort limits. Any good lessons that are going to come your way are going to come your way while outside the box. It's where you learn the most about yourself and about this world. Here we are at the Canadian border. This is the first leg of the journey. Gonna have a couple thousand miles worth of traveling to do in Canada before we cross the border back into the United States in Alaska. We're gonna cross through here and continue our journey. Well, we are officially across the Canadian border and into British Columbia. British Columbia is a ginormous province up here in Canada. There's lots of territory to cover as we make our way north. At this point, I am aiming for Prince George, which is just under halfway up British Columbia. That'll be a good stopping point for the evening. Be able to hunker down as we make our way north. British Columbia, the gateway to the mountains. This is where the journey turns and heads north into the mighty Fraser Canyon as we wind our way up the Trans-Canada Highway northbound.
Close your eyes, hear the voice within, calling this heavy load got under your skin, hauling. You got the white knuckles holding on the tight, keeping your feelings bottled up inside, heading for collision in the night.
Now this isn't just making the drive to the furthest north in North America, this is also making that drive in the dead of winter. It turns out that February is the coldest month for that region. They've seen well into minus 40 on record temperatures.
Hey, come alive. Breathe out.
Why do it in the wintertime? In the summertime, it's driving some gravel roads with washboards and potholes. I feel like everybody can do it in the summertime. With the snow-laden land, the ice-laden land, it's the conditions that add the extra layer of intensity on top of it. You get to see planet Earth in a different manner than most people are willing to go out and do. It's a test of will, it's a test of tenacity to see what you're willing to endure. And there's a lot to be taken from pushing through and making an accomplishment such as this, and that is what I'm looking forward to.
Look at the colors, colors, colors.
Well, after 4 hours and 58 minutes of driving, I am rolling into Cache Creek, British Columbia, about 199 miles down with 2,350 miles left to go. We are just starting through British Columbia. We got a long ways to go. Time behind the wheel, time on the open road, lots of time to think and imagine what you can do with life. That's what these trips are all about.
Moments pass, make this one count. Untie, why? Well, there ain't much time left to figure things out.
Well, the sun is setting on day number one. Still got a couple hundred miles to make it to Prince George. These highways are pretty wide, well maintained, and clear of any sort of weather conditions. So I think I'll go ahead and push into the night. That will be a good stopping point for day number one. Go ahead and hunker down there for the evening, and I'll have a fresh start in the morning. Whew. It has been one hell of a long day of driving. According to the GPS here on Gaia, it looks like we've been driving for 9 hours and 50 minutes to get from Bellingham, Washington to Prince George, British Columbia, which is just shy of being the halfway point up British Columbia. I've got a spot here at a truck stop that I've pulled off to. Gonna hunker down here in the van, get ready for bed, and get a good night's sleep so that we can make another decent push up through some territory tomorrow. The key to getting a good night's sleep I have found recently is taking some decent supplements. I've got a sleep supplement that I make up into a drink. And then also I've been taking some ashwagandha and magnesium. And man, I tell you what, on these long trips where you're going out into some stressful territory, where things are remote, you're by yourself, there's a lot of pressure on yourself mentally, getting a good night's sleep, I find that makes such a huge difference. That's part of my routine here in the evenings before I crash, especially on these bigger road trips where all hands need to be on deck mentally right here. while yesterday was a nice sunny day, looking outside here this morning, it looks like some clouds have socked in, a little precipitation in the form of snow. It looks like outside right now it is 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 10 degrees Celsius. Might have a little bit of some gray snowy conditions on our hands for today's travels. Well, definitely gotta say I'm gonna miss the drive in sunny weather. Today's socked in and snowy. Definitely makes for a different day of driving, but that's all part of the adventure. That's just inevitable when you decide you want to drive to Alaska in the wintertime. That's all part of the adventure. Getting the van topped off with fuel before I start the trek north. Fuel prices right now here at this Esso station in Prince George, $1.75 per liter, and that is Canadian funds. As we continue to head north, I expect that those fuel prices are going to continue to rise as we get into those remote areas. That wind out there is chilly with that moisture in the air. Snow coming down. It's cold on the ears. Now that the van is all fueled up, I am going to swing over to Canadian Tire, because these guys up here just have different gear for these kind of conditions that I'm heading into. Things like windshield washer fluid. Down in the States, in the region where we're from in Northwest Washington, there's no need for extremely cold temp windshield washer fluid, so it's just simply not available. So I like to swing into Canadian Tire and kind of browse their sections for anything that I might find useful that they actually stock in their stores for these kinds of conditions as I begin to head north. Ice scrapers down in the States, at least where I'm from, are nothing like this. So to get something heavy duty that's going to withstand the conditions up there, this right here is where I like to go. Let's keep in mind the Sprinter van is giant tall, so to reach up to the top of the windshield, we need something that is extendable. On this side right here, of course, you've got your heavy duty ice scraper. Over here on this side, you've got a squeegee. And going north, where we get into the dry snow that blows up on the back of the van, it's nice to have a brush to brush that snow dust off the back of the van. That ought to do the trick. Okay, we are on the road, headed northbound. Next stop, that's going to be the start of the Dalton Highway. The current temperature right now is 28 degrees Fahrenheit, which is going to be about -1, -2 degrees Celsius. Snow is coming down. The roads a bit slick. From here, as we head north, we're going to be heading up into a bit of a mountain range as we cross the Canadian Rockies down into Dawson Creek. So things could get interesting here. We'll see what happens. I've now climbed to about 2,959 feet in elevation. This is the Rocky Mountains, but you can tell this area and this region gets quite a bit of snow accumulation throughout the winter season. I'm gonna hit the hay, get a good night's sleep for a good push for the rest of the way up British Columbia here tomorrow. All right, guys, we'll see you in the morning. Waking up here this morning in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. The temperature right now is sitting at about 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 0 degrees Celsius, but I expect that those temperatures are going to be dropping as we continue further north. After driving for 15 and a half hours, 742 miles since I left Bellingham, Washington, I am now here in Dawson Creek, British Columbia. It's about the halfway point, maybe a little bit further up the map on British Columbia, and this is mile 0 of the world famous Alaska Highway, which is a 1,390 mile highway that stretches from Dawson Creek all the way to Delta Junction up in Alaska. This is about where the adventure truly begins as I make my way north into Alaska. We've got 1,951 miles to Dead Horse, Alaska. It's time to get this show on the road. Let's head north. Well, I tell you what, stretches of the Alaska Highway like this, the road just goes on and on and on. It's just kind of flat, rolling hills. We've got big Rocky Mountains off to my left and nothing but the open road ahead of me. It's interesting landscape. It's always intriguing to me to see how it changes as the miles click by. Fort Nelson, British Columbia, in the north of BC. We're looking at $2.26 Canadian per liter. Fuel prices are going up. Now, one common question that is asked often here on these videos when I travel into these extreme temperatures, how I keep my fuel from gelling and what kind of additives I add. Truth be told, all of the fuel sold here in Canada and beyond north is already winterized at the pump, so there's actually no need to add any extra fuel additives when traveling into this part of the country. Just a couple hours ago, we were on long, straight, wide open highways with not a care in the world. Now, the highway has wound up into the northern Rockies of British Columbia, and things are a little bit different now. It's narrow, it's curvy, the mountains have closed in tight, and there's compact snow and ice on the road. This really feels like we're getting into the roots of what the Alaska Highway is all about, and the remoteness the further we head north. What's up, guys? We're gonna pause this adventure here for just a quick moment. I wanna talk about these cool new hoodie sweatshirts that we're pumping out. It's kind of a special edition specifically for this video. So we're actually here in Eldad's shop. Got this cool new printing press that he's just setting up. The cool thing is that it allows us to experiment a little bit with some of the LTVL clothing and bring more stuff to you guys. He's over here pumping this stuff out right now. Let's check it out. So the cool thing about the next step in this process is that this is going to make each and every hoodie completely unique with its own little signature style of printing here. Now this cool logo here was actually inspired by a sticker that we had available on the website. We decided we'd just turn it into a logo right here on a hooded sweatshirt so you guys can wear them right here on the front. Hell yeah, so stoked on these hoodies. These things are the most comfortable things ever. They're super cozy. The cool thing about this logo with this gradient across here is that it's unique to each and every shirt every time it runs through the printing press. Stoked to have these available on the website. Also, while you're at it over at the website livingthevanlife.com, might as well go on and get yourself a cool new laser etched mug, insulated mug, because every cold weather adventure needs a good warm mug, and especially when it says LTVL on it, how can you go wrong? And cool bonus, which most mugs or insulated cups have a hard time doing, this actually fits in your cup holder on the website livingthevanlife.com as well. As I like to say, guys, don't be a fool, be cool. Head on over to livingthevanlife.com, pick up your hoodie today. With that being said, let's get back to the Arctic adventure. Well, I went ahead and decided to call the night a little bit sooner than what I had anticipated. It looked like there was some weather starting to come into the region, and I came across this spot here, which is called Toad River, and it looks to be a fairly popular trucking stop for the truck traffic that is passing through this region. So I'm gonna go ahead and take that as a sign, as it's a good spot to hunker down way out here in the remote territory of the northern British Columbia Rocky Mountains. As you can see in the headlights here, there is snow falling down, so I'll get a good night's sleep and be able to start the drive back up tomorrow morning. So, this is gonna be home for the night. Well, for this trip up to the Arctic, I have taken a little bit of a different approach to my meals. And with so many long days of driving, I wanted something simple. I decided that I would like to do some meal prepping. So I spent a good solid day planning some simple and healthy meals that I could put together before I left Northwest Washington, and that I could easily heat up using the 3-quart instant pot that I have here inside my Sprinter van. I can put about a cup of water down in the bottom on a trivet, and then I put that little pot and pot system down in there, and I steam my leftovers for anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes, and I have nice delicious food that I have all prepped myself from scratch while it is cold and wintry outside way up here in the Rocky Mountains of British Columbia. Basically what I've done here is cooked up a bit of a stir fry. I've got some chicken, some broccoli, some mushroom, some shallots, some peppers, and some peas that I cooked up previously, and I put that with some pre-made rice and just reheated it. And just like that, we've got ourselves a nice home-cooked meal right here in the Sprinter van. And after a long day of driving, I'm looking forward to a nice warm meal. Hell yeah. And it is definitely hot. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Waking up this morning, the temperature outside is 0 degrees. That's about negative 17.6 degrees Celsius. When I parked here last night, the temperature was at about 30 degrees and quickly dropped. By the time I went to bed, it was 9 degrees Fahrenheit. Here inside the van, it is a nice cozy 60 degrees Fahrenheit thanks to the diesel heater, making things nice and comfortable through a good night's sleep. From here, I'm gonna fuel up the van at the Toad River Outpost, then continue my journey north and west through Muncho Lake and onto Liard River Hot Springs. The journey continues onwards and upwards. Out here on the Alcan, you don't pass up a fuel stop without stopping to make sure you're topped off, because you don't know where the next open fuel station is going to be, especially where the weather and the temperatures are extreme. So got the van all topped up. We're about to hit the road, continue north and west. As I continue my trek through this amazing scenery, I'm completely at awe of what this highway actually is as it meanders its way through these Rocky Mountains. And when I think back to the history of how and why this highway was ever built, that this is the connecting overland route from Alaska to anything in the rest of North America. There's only one way in and there's only one way out, and that's through the Alaska Highway. It's mind-blowing to me what the people went through back in the early 40s when they set out here to build this. The weather is so socked in here, the visibility so severely flat. It makes it very challenging to see where the road ends and the ditch begins, but this is part of the adventure, so we just keep on trucking. Well, that was freaking cool. I was cruising down the highway here near Muncho Lake and noticed an object kind of off on the side of the road here in the deep, deep snow. And as I drove by, all I could see was a couple of ears and a face in the snow. And I was able to turn around and drive back. It was still in its position, and I realized it was a Canadian lynx. As I pulled up, I was able to snap off a few photos as he kind of backed himself off into the trees. What's up, buddy? What you doing there, critter? What a cool experience to be able to see some wildlife out here. Upon further inspection, it looked like he had some roadkill. It looked like maybe a moose had been hit on the highway and he was maybe working on that for a snack. Nonetheless, cool opportunity to spot some wildlife out here. once again presented with an opportunity to see some wildlife here. These are some bison, and they are having to fight through the snow to get down to any bit of food that they can get in this deep snow. It's cold right now, but as you can tell by the amount of snow that's collected on their back, they have pretty good insulation. The Liard River Hot Springs. It's been a spot I've wanted to check out for a long time. Now's my opportunity. It's a bit of a walk back here into the woods, but supposed to be some really cool hot springs, and what a cool way to enjoy a winter scene when it is 6 degrees Fahrenheit outside, but we're sitting in some hot springs. Let's go check it out. How freaking cool is this? It is 6 degrees Fahrenheit, but here inside the pool it stays anywhere from 98 degrees up to 125 degrees year round, making for an awesome hot spring. And all of the steam that rises up off of the hot springs collects on the branches of the trees up above, and just such a cool winter scene way out here in the middle of nowhere. Just a quick reminder, did you make it over to livingthevanlife.com to get yourself the hoodie? Wow, what a really cool experience to go out and enjoy the Liard River hot springs in a winter wonderland like that. Something about hot springs, the heat, the minerals, the scene, the experience. Come out of there feeling quite invigorated for sure. The body is abuzz. Well, as much as I would love to continue to soak in these hot springs, I do need to make some time down the road towards the destination. So I'm gonna get a couple of more hours of driving in here this afternoon before we hunker down and call it a night. Onward we go. And of course, part of living on the road, producing content for the Living the Van Life YouTube channel is at the end of each day, ingesting all of the footage from the drone, from the camera, from the GoPros, all onto the hard drive so everything is backed up, safe and secured. There's a lot of work that goes into creating this content and capturing it every single day, and heaven forbid something should happen to a camera, a drone gets crashed out over a river or across a lake and it's unattainable. So every day everything gets backed up to a hard drive. To be honest with you, when I'm out traveling solo on trips like this, I wear the same clothes every day. I eat the same foods every day. It makes things simple, it makes decisions in the morning for the day simple. There are other decisions to be made that are more important than what I'm going to wear or what I'm going to eat today. If I find a routine that I enjoy, I'll repeat it day in and day out until I fall out of that cycle. I've cut up some fresh ginger, some fresh turmeric, some fresh garlic, and then put half a teaspoon to a teaspoon in with the avocado and just mix it all up with a little bit of salt and seasoning, and that makes for a delicious breakfast. For this trip, it was important for me to eat healthy. It's easy to get off the rails on road trips. It's easy just to swing into gas stations and grab the junk food that's easily available. That does nothing good for the health, mentally, physically, etc. I would say that overall, the whole idea is to keep things as simple as possible while you're out here on trips like this. The majority of your work and the majority of your day is spent traveling, keeping the van on the road, navigating the conditions, the terrain, etc. So when it comes down to meals and eating, the last thing that I wanted to do was have big meals that I needed to prep and prepare while out here on the road. Having the meals fully prepped and frozen here inside the freezer to where I can just steam them up in the Instant Pot, everything has been good. That way I can focus on the trip at hand. So far we are about 1,345 miles into the trip according to the Gaia GPS. Finally made it into the Yukon. According to Google Maps, the amount of miles that we have left to reach Dead Horse is 1,350. Turns out that Watson Lake is just about the halfway point as we head north. However, once we get to the top, the journey is only half done and we got to make our way back down out of the Arctic. Day number 5, on the road. We're going to be headed from Watson Lake to Whitehorse, Yukon. Got a bit of a trek across the Dalton Highway today. Going to get the van put away, get things prepped up to hit the road. On my GPS here on my iPad, I'm just plugging in Whitehorse as the next destination. No matter where I'm at throughout my trek for the day, I know how many miles I've gone, I know how many miles I've got until my next destination, my next fuel stop, etc. You can never have too much information about where you are, where you're going, and how long you've got till you get there. If something were to go wrong, I want to know exactly how far I am from any sort of civilization. Having that knowledge is key to making treks out here through remote areas and always knowing where you're at. Just out here trucking along in the Yukon. The highway is just long, drawn out. For thousands of miles on this journey, it is compact snow and ice, and it is slippery. After my journey last year, I got quite a few questions about the tires that I used, if I used four-wheel drive, if I had studded snow tires, also if I used snow chains. I do not have studded snow tires, just the BFG KO2 all-terrain, which is rated for snow, and they do perform quite well. Snow chains would be just impossible to try and use on a trip like this, because your maximum speed on snow chains is going to be 30 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour, and it's just not feasible. If you plan to cover any sort of territory, driving 35 miles an hour for thousands of miles, you're going to be here for a long time. So no, I do not use snow chains on a drive like this. For the most part, I do not have it in four-wheel drive, and that is mostly just to conserve fuel, because there are often times where we go hundreds of miles between fuel stops. So for most of the miles here, I have been doing it in two-wheel drive just to conserve fuel. I've been averaging probably about 60 miles an hour. Mostly it's going with the flow of traffic and understanding how other people who are local to the area have learned how to drive in conditions like that and following their lead. You just have to be confident in what you're doing. You have to be confident in your vehicle. The highway is wide, it is smooth. There's no sudden sharp turns in most areas. Really, truly is no big deal to do 60 miles an hour on compact snow and ice with the right tires. I've just pulled off to the side of the highway here at a bit of a fork in the road, maybe an hour or so south of Whitehorse, and I started looking at the map and realized how close I am at this point in the game to the coastal Alaskan region. And it looks like a little bit of a detour and a scenic route that I could take that perhaps could elevate this whole entire trip tremendously. This is the part that I love about traveling solo, traveling in a van where I've got everything with me on my back as I need it. It's all up to me. It's where I want to go. I think at this point I'm gonna go left instead of right. Go see what this adventure brings on. So here's to solo road trips and van life. Let's go to Skagway, Alaska and see what that's all about. Because as I like to say, why not? It's a great way to live life.
You keep blowing me out, I keep holding you in. I keep asking myself, oh, why do you still hurt? Whoa.
Well, you can certainly tell we are starting to approach the coastal region. The winds that are blowing in off of the ocean really seem to be picking up, and they are just whipping down through these canyons, and there's lots of blowing snow. As we approach the top of White Pass, the snow is deeper, therefore more and more blowing snow. This is absolutely insane. That snowplow that just passed, completely engulfed in snow. The visibility right now is extremely flat, damn near down to zero. All I can do is keep myself pointed between the poles that line each side of the road. Hello. It's a Sprinter van.
Sprinter van? What does that mean?
A Mercedes.
Where are the plates from?
Washington State.
Washington?
Yep. 1,670 miles since I left Bellingham, Washington. I arrive on the Alaska coast here in Skagway, Alaska. It's cold, it's blustery, it's wild out here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Alaska. Having just crossed over White Pass with some extreme snowy whiteout conditions, to then drop down here to sea level and be taken back into time in this little gold rush town. It is so eerily quiet here on the streets. There's nothing but the sound of the wind blowing through the power lines, howling, the clanking of random stuff around town. So very surreal. Having veered 80 miles off my originally planned route, to my surprise, basically find myself in the middle of a ghost town, which, to be honest with you, is extremely intriguing to be able to come experience it. From what I gather, in the summertime, when all the cruise ships show up here in the inlet, this town is a hustle and a bustle. I find it intriguing being able to come here in an off season like this and see it, perhaps maybe not in its brightest moments. To be able to witness a town like this literally all to myself was very interesting. Back here in the late 1800s, this is where the mighty Klondike Gold Rush started, was right here. This was the port where everybody showed up on steamships and sailing ships from Seattle and Portland and eventually all over the world for the absolute craze of what became the Klondike Gold Rush. In the span from 1897 to 1899, over 100,000 men and women came from all over the world in hopes of making it big with the Klondike Gold Rush up in Dawson City. It's crazy how thousands and thousands of people died trying to climb Chilkoot Pass. The Golden Staircase, those infamous pictures of we see people climbing up in the crazy winter conditions. People were dying from exhaustion on the trail, lying at people's feet as they passed by on their way to the gold. It all started right here. It's just incredible the history that goes down in places like this. And then to be here, to have the whole entire place to myself. Definitely an eerie feeling, but also a wonderful treat. It's just what adventures are made of, and that's exactly why we're on this trip. That's part of taking a chance when you decide to take a left instead of a right. Waking up here this morning in Skagway, Alaska. I'm gonna jump on a ferry, which is part of the Alaska Marine Highway, and jump over to Haines, Alaska, which is about a 1-hour ride down the inlet here. And then from Haines, I'm gonna jump on the Haines Highway and take a trek up through some of the Alaska mountains on my way back to the Alcan Highway. So looking forward to a bit of a ferry ride. This should be a unique experience, getting the Sprinter on a ferry and checking out some of the Alaska coastline. Well, here we are. We made it onto the boat. This is going to be home for the next hour as we cruise down the inlet to Haines. Pretty cool to be able to put the Sprinter van on a ferry and get the true Alaska experience. Well, and just like that, we have made it across the ferry line over to Haines, Alaska. I'm gonna cruise into town, probably hunker down there for the evening, and hoping for some clearer weather to break as I make my trek up the Haines Highway. It's supposed to be some pretty spectacular views of mountains and such, so I would hate for it to be all socked in and snowy when we make that trip. So let's go check out Haines, see if we can't hunker down and let some weather clear up for our trek. Good morning, guys. Just waking up outside of Haines, Alaska here this morning to this spectacular view over the Chilkoot River. This right here is the true essence of Alaska. The mountains, freaking phenomenal. What a spectacular view to wake up to. So very cool. Well, this is the start of the Haines Highway. It heads north out of Haines, Alaska for about a 3-hour trek back up into Canada and the Yukon, where we're going to hook up with the Alaska Highway once again. This drive up the Haines Highway is supposed to be pretty spectacular.
بركة في دنيا هنانا نينا بيجي شدي بركة بركة في دنيا هنانا بركة في دنيا هنانا يشون كري جي جي في تبك يشون أبي سندي أبي سي رشير أي كوجكا وسوقو أبي سي جي وسوقو أنغو ألا لا في دنيا أنينا بيجي دي ولا سلام في دنيا هنانا سلام.
After 44 hours of driving, 1,807 miles, I find myself here at Chilkoot Pass on the Haines Highway up here in British Columbia, Canada. This is an absolutely magnificent winter wonderland. The wind right now is treacherous with a temperature of 15 degrees Fahrenheit. That wind chill factor has to be well down below zero. It is definitely crisp out here. Well, I've got myself hunkered down here for the evening. The wind continues to rage outside, and with it being 12 degrees outside, that puts the wind chill factor well below zero. But here inside the van, thanks to the diesel heater, it is a nice and warm 64 degrees Fahrenheit. For tonight's meal, I've got some of my homemade spaghetti sauce with Italian sausage heating up together with some ready-made rice right here in the Instant Pot. I just love making my own spaghetti sauce from scratch. And this recipe that I've been using for my spaghetti sauce comes from my dad's recipe. Maybe not with some ready-made rice, but some good old spaghetti. And every Friday night as a kid growing up, we used to have spaghetti, and that was the weekly treat that we looked forward to. And Dad used this recipe to make his own spaghetti sauce from scratch. So being able to adapt it here in van life and be able to enjoy it way up here in the mountains, it's the perfect hearty meal for way out here where the temps are in the low teens Fahrenheit and well below 0 degrees Celsius. The wind continues to rage outside, but yet here inside the van, it's quiet, comfortable. Made myself a warm cup of tea. I'm gonna process today's footage. It never ends on these trips. It's constant documenting, it's constant organizing, making sure all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, all in a day's work. It's crazy to be up here in these remote mountains. It's 12 degrees outside, the wind fighting to get its way inside, but yet it's home sweet home on wheels out here in no man's land. It's such a surreal feeling to be way out here with a shelter on wheels that we can take anywhere. We've got light, we've got heat, we've got comfort of home, all right here. Can we just take a moment here this morning as I'm waking up and reflect on the experience that I had last night? I was posted up here on the Haines Highway. I was just getting my chores all set and actually getting ready to hit the hay after a long day. Just before I crawled into bed, I figured I'd take one last look outside to the sky to see if there was any northern lights activity going on. And as soon as I opened my slider door, I could see the glow of the sky reflecting on the snowy landscape outside the van. And I looked up into the sky and everything was just, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was absolutely incredible. I grabbed my camera and went outside and just had one of the most remarkable experiences of my entire life. Anybody that's taken the time to stop and appreciate what the aurora is, they know what I'm talking about. It is absolutely phenomenal. These lights would come in across the sky from as far north as you could see, race over the top of you, all the way down to the southern horizon in just a matter of mere seconds. And they rip and twirl from side to side, just covering an immense amount of space. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for many of us, and the fact that I got to experience it firsthand, truly spectacular. I think it's the enormity, I think it's the speed that really just sets the whole experience on fire. Almost to the point where it's kind of creepy. You're standing there all alone, out here in these remote mountains, desolate, and this is all unfolding in the sky above you. It is absolutely incredible. It's definitely enough to question our existence on this planet, in this galaxy, in this universe. But nonetheless, I snapped a bunch of photos. I got a time lapse. Let's go ahead and roll the time lapse and watch this thing unfold. I left Northwest Washington 7 days ago. And after 45 hours worth of driving, 1,800 miles, I find myself in this truly amazing landscape. This is truly no man's land. Talking about feeling small in this world. You stand here amongst these giant mountains and this vast landscape that goes on forever. That right there will make you feel small. And that one time a few days ago when I decided to take a left instead of a right and end up here, this right here is the payoff of taking that chance. And that's the thing with life. You've got to take chances. You got to put yourself in those moments. You've got to create those opportunities. And that's exactly what's happened here today. I've practically got the whole entire place all to myself. I think I've seen maybe 1 or 2 cars pass by in the last several hours. So I've just pulled over to the side of the road here on the Haines Highway, and I'm gonna go ahead and throw my winter front on. A lot of people have covers over their grill up here in the far north. Now the reason for that being is because of the cold, frigid temperatures blasting through the front of the van at 60 miles an hour. The engine and the drivetrain never have the opportunity to come up to a proper operating temperature. Even the heat inside to keep myself warm doesn't want to work. So they have what is called winter fronts, which cover a lot of this grill space. Now, after some extensive research online, I wasn't able to find anything that was pre-manufactured specifically for this model of Sprinter van. So I went to the local hardware store, gathered up some materials, and I was able to make my own. Well, and just like that, we've got ourselves a winter front on the front of the Sprinter van. Last year it worked out really well. I'm hoping this go around is going to work out even better since I've come prepared, and we'll see if this doesn't get everything back up to proper operating temperature as we continue the journey north. Just wondering, did you make it over to the website yet? livingthevanlife.com. We're waiting. Don't forget, mugs, stickers, livingthevanlife.com. Well, I'm waking up here this morning in Haines Junction, which is north of Haines, Alaska. This is actually up in the Yukon. We're back in Canada. This is where I catch back up to the Dalton Highway, continue my heading north and west towards Fairbanks. Definitely starting to feel the crispiness coming on for sure. Now that temperatures are starting to get down into the minus temperatures, it's important to start keeping an eye on the status of the van and the different temperatures throughout the van. Waking up this morning at minus 10 degree outside temps. The temp inside the garage right now is 39 degrees. I did install a heat lamp in the back underneath my bed to make sure that that area stays at temperature for the Battleborn lithium batteries to recharge, but that heat lamp is there as a backup in case we get too cold. So everything's looking good as far as that is concerned. If we look here at the back doors, on the windows here, I've got ice built up on the inside of the back door. This is a testament to how well my partitions are working to help keep the inside insulated, because it's keeping the heat inside and keeping the cold outside. So far, all the systems are working as planned, which is important on a trek like this when we're going into some extreme winter temperatures. Back on the Alaska Highway, some 1,925 miles into this journey. This is day number 8. The cool thing is the sense of time has just kind of dissipated. It doesn't really matter what day it is. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter what mile it is. It just goes to remind me that what is time? Why does time matter? Let's just go out and live life. Let's enjoy the adventure. Let's enjoy the journey. Being able to let go for a bit, go on a walkabout, let yourself free, let your mind be free. Just to exist on this planet and not worry about time. It's a truly freeing feeling. So a little bit of an update on the Starlink satellite service as we continue to travel north out here into this remote territory. So far, I have been overly happy with the performance of the Starlink and the fact that it is flat mounted to the top of my van, so I can use it in motion with my Star Mount Systems mount to be out here and have connectivity, mostly for the safety and survival standard of it. Gives me the confidence that if anything were to go wrong in these kind of conditions, that I've got connection to the outside world and can call for help. I can get in the moment weather updates. If I need to make navigation changes, I've got data to be able to make those route changes on my navigation apps here on the iPad. So for me, it is mostly safety. So far, it's been working quite well in motion. I'm cruising down the highway here up in the Yukon at 65 miles an hour with my Starlink mounted to my Star Mount on top of my rack. And I've got full connection to be able to communicate with people back at home base that are giving me updates and information, which is a unique opportunity in this day and age. 110 miles since I left Northwest Washington. 51 hours and 45 minutes worth of driving. I've been all the way up the length of British Columbia, into the Yukon, all the way across that territory, and now I'm just a few kilometers away from crossing back into the United States at the Alaska border here on the Alaskan Highway. And just like that, welcome to Alaska, the state that puts the size of Texas to shame. No offense to all of you Texans, I know you guys are proud of your state, but Alaska, significantly larger in square miles. The U.S. border crossing marks mile number 1,218 of the Alaska Highway since we left Dawson Creek back in British Columbia. Right now, we've got nothing but the open road ahead of us all the way to the Arctic. Let's see what this adventure brings and what lies on the road ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Alaska. I'm waking up here this morning here in Delta Junction, Alaska. Gonna make up some breakfast, get my day started before I head up to Fairbanks. Wanted to see if it was actually possible to do a toast on saute mode in the Instant Pot. Turns out that in fact indeed it is, and this morning I'm having fresh avocado toast, just not on bread but toast here in the van. I've been surviving a lot on avocados on this trip, just mainly because they're so healthy for you. They're easy to digest, they're easy to keep and prepare here in the van. It takes me just a few minutes to whip that up. My favorite way to do up toast in the past has been just over a skillet over the burner in the back outdoor kitchen here in the van. Of course, I'm not doing that when it's 5 degrees and blowing outside. So the fact that I can do up a good toast right here in the Instant Pot, I just put down a little bit of coconut oil in the bottom, put it on saute mode, and just do the toast in there, and it cooks nice and slow. It makes perfect toast. What do you know? But because I'm doing so much driving, so much sitting, I didn't want to eat a ton of heavy food that would just sit in my gut. It's never very good for you when you're sitting a lot, which I have been for hours and hours and thousands of miles. So avocados, to the wind. Definitely enjoying that on the trip. Number 2. It was just that good. I had to go for round 2 to finish off the avocado. Damnation, that's good. The coconut oil tops off the toast with that perfect nutty flavor, coconut flavor. I'm in love. Well, here this morning, I just wanted to take another moment to observe the performance of the oil pan heating pad and see how that is working. Right now, outside it is 13 degrees, so not terribly cold compared to what we woke up to yesterday in Haines Junction where it was minus 12. But I have been running the oil pan heater now for several hours here this morning just to get that oil temperature up to a normal temperature, because oil can really solidify in these cold temps, and I just want to know everything I can about how this oil pan heater actually performs. Looking at my battery system this morning, when it turned on, I had about 87% of my 600 amp hours of battery. After running for several hours, the battery system is down to 29%. That's 500 watts of AC power off of that battery system is definitely putting some strain on the batteries. Not in a bad way, they're definitely capable of doing that, but as we can see, it drains it quite quickly. But that's okay, that's we knew that going into the scenario. I went out with my laser thermometer. This little guy here, I can just point it at the oil pan and poke around and see what the temperature is in different spots. The oil pan heater was sitting at about 275 degrees. The oil pan around it looked to be anywhere from 135 degrees down to 98 degrees, which is great. I just want to keep it from solidifying, especially if we see downwards to minus 20, minus 30, or even minus 40 degrees. That's where that oil pan heater is really going to come in. Now, the cool thing is, right here on the iPad, I've got the Apple HomeKit application, and I've got those smart plugs that are plugged into my outlets in the garage, and I can control those right here from the iPad. So right here we can see that the oil pan heater is on. This over here is the control for my heat lamp, and by clicking this, it turns the oil pan heater off. I can turn the heat lamp on here if I want. I don't think I need to at this point. It looks like the temperature, according to my thermometer in the garage, is more than enough for the batteries to recharge, so I can just click that off. So now that I've turned the oil pan heater off using the HomeKit app, I can pop over here to the Victron Connect app. We're going to hook up via Bluetooth to the Victron system. We can see over here on this side that we have a draw of 13 amps. We're sitting at 28% on the state of charge. For giggles, let's go back over. Let's turn the oil pan heater on. Let's turn the heat lamp on as well. Then let's bounce back over here to the Victron. And we're gonna see this number over here on the current go up significantly. If you see now, we are drawing 62.5 amps off of that. And we are drawing about 800 watts of power if we look right here just below. So significant draws, but the Victron Multi Plus 3000 inverter, it is more than capable of handling that. And this is the temperature monitor. Here we can see in the garage it's 42 degrees. Outside it's 13 degrees. Right here inside the van, currently it is 61 degrees. And so I can have this sitting up front at the driver's seat as well, and I can just monitor everything as I go. And it just keeps my trip moving forward. Having knowledge and understanding about your system is key, and peace of mind. Well, here we are just getting on the road here in Delta Junction, This morning, the snow is coming down quite significantly. I've got a 100-mile trek to Fairbanks. Now, if I put that into a perspective that I'm familiar with, that's like driving from my hometown in Northwest Washington to Seattle and maybe a little bit further. If the weather was something like this back home, that would be a huge consideration. Do I chance driving in weather like this all the way to Seattle? But after driving 2,300 miles through British Columbia, the Yukon, and now into Alaska, a mere 100 miles in any sort of weather just seems like you're dropping a bucket, and it feels like I'm just right around the corner. We'll keep on trudging up to Fairbanks. Well, the good news is this afternoon I rolled into Fairbanks, Alaska. That was certainly a welcome sight after about 2,400 miles worth of driving. From this point here in Fairbanks, moving north, these are where the conditions become very serious, and it's absolutely necessary to go in with everything I can, being fully prepared. And that includes knowledge on what weather is going to unfold for the next several days. This evening, headed up to explore the Chena Hot Springs, about 60 miles north and east of Fairbanks. So this right here was home last night. I created my own little lodge right here in the parking lot. Had a late soak last night, went to bed feeling relaxed, which was wonderful, and now waking up to this wonderland out here in winter USA. Just getting up here this morning to go enjoy another soak. Pretty freaking phenomenal out here. Super cool. Such a cool experience to be in these hot springs that are 105, 106 degrees Fahrenheit, but yet outside it is freezing cold in a winter wonderland. I tell you what, after so many hours, so many days, so many miles of driving in the driver's seat of the Sprinter van, it is nice to be able to go out and have a soak in some hot springs. Way up here in the mountains near Fairbanks, Alaska, or getting close to the Arctic, I can certainly sense it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Dalton Highway. This highway that lies ahead of me for the next 400 plus miles is known as the legendary haul road of the Dalton Highway.
This highway from hell is home turf for an elite band of truckers who supply Alaska's remote North Slope oil fields and the Trans-Alaska Pipeline.
As of 1968, there was no overland route through this remote region of northern Alaska. But in the late 1960s, the largest naturally occurring oil deposit in all of North America was discovered up here on the North Slope. And that launched one of the biggest oil booms in American history.
Big oil companies raced to stake out wells and begin drilling. Thousands of tons of drill pipe and equipment were needed at the remote sites. Without an overland supply route, a highway, the big boom would quickly go bust.
In the late 1960s and the early 70s, men and women gathered to construct a pioneer road stretching nearly 500 miles from Fairbanks, Alaska, all the way to the Arctic Ocean, where this oil field lies.
It took 8 weeks for bulldozers to gouge a primitive 400-mile-long trail across the frozen tundra. In March 1969, a convoy of 20 tractor-trailer trucks struck north on the very first trip up the road. From the start, the rough terrain was a nightmare for the drivers. Trucks were kept running 24 hours a day to keep engines from seizing in the sub-zero cold. With no camps to shelter them, the men slept in their poorly heated cabs and struggled to keep warm.
Turns out that it is some of the most extreme and some of the most remote territory in all of planet Earth.
1/3 of the state lies north of the Arctic Circle, where winter keeps a death grip on the land for 10 months a year.
You couldn't hardly find a spot in the United States that would be more isolated than Prudhoe Bay, Alaska.
Temperatures out here can fall to as low as minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and blizzards can dump up to 900 inches of snow. This adventure is no joke.
It's cold, it's often dark, it's far away from any place else. You face these elements all the time that complicate everything.
And over the next 2 days, through the next 400 miles, we are taking van life to the whole new extreme to see what is doable in a 4x4 Sprinter van as we go to experience some van life all the way north into the Arctic, through the infamous Brooks Range and onto the North Slope of Alaska. This very well could be the culmination of the last 13 years of all of my van life adventures into the backcountry and into winter camping to go see what is possible while living in a van and traveling up into these crazy conditions. Let's go see what kind of adventure we can get ourselves into. About 125 miles north of Fairbanks, as I climb to this 2,000-foot peak, the landscape completely transformed into this wild scene that we can see unfolding here behind me. This right here has to go down as one of the coolest and one of the most intriguing winter landscapes that I have ever come across in my travels. The wind that screams through here, together with the extremely low temperatures and the blowing snow, the snow encapsulates itself onto these trees. One of the amazing things that you get to see along the Dalton Highway. So I wanted to give you guys a bit of an idea of what the road surface is like out here on the Dalton Highway, where a lot of times it looks like it is just compact snow. Other times it looks like it's gravel. It's hard to tell when it's paved or when it's not, but nonetheless, 99.9% of this 500-mile route is actual ice. I brought my hammer out here just to chip away here. And there we get down to some actual road surface. So that's a good 1 to 2 inches of ice over the top of this solid dirt surface. They do a good job of coming out and plowing it, making sure that it is wide and clear. So there is a bit of a grooving in here that happens from the road grader. It is super slick out here. It's rough because of the extreme cold temperatures that happen in the wintertime. And then in the summertime, it warms up and there's times where it's actually hot. Then you get a lot of heaving in the road. And so a lot of times it feels like you're riding on a boat through waves, just bouncing and bouncing and bouncing. But the fact that there is a road 500 miles from Fairbanks through some of the most extreme, remote, wild terrain out here, that's an amazing feat all on its own. Thanks to the ice road, it actually makes for a great drive coming up here this time of year, because in the summertime, I hear horror stories of potholes and washboards. So right now, we've just got a good, solid, icy road. Now, a lot of people have questions about my tires when I come up here. Do I run studded tires? Do I run snow chains? Do I run in four-wheel drive, etc.? Right here, I am running a set of BF Goodrich KO2 all-terrain tires. These things are rated for snow and mud. They actually perform quite well out here. Matter of fact, I do most of my travel on this road in two-wheel drive, just for the pure fact that it is 250 miles between fuel stops. The Sprinter van on a good day has about a 285 mile range, which is cutting it close. And so I keep it in two-wheel drive, mostly for the fuel efficiency. There is a few times out here on some of the bigger hills where I can really feel the van sliding around, and I do put it in four-wheel drive for that. And because the Dalton Highway can become quite rough in a lot of spots and doing a lot of miles, I did air down all 4 of my tires. I'm running about 30 PSI in the front and about 40 PSI in the rear, and letting a little bit of air out of the tires from a highway pressure just really helps soften the ride out here when things can get very chattery on these compact icy roads. I do not run chains on it. Chains could potentially work, but the thing is out here, when you've got 500 miles up and 500 miles down, if you were to try and run chains out here, you'd be limited to about 35 miles an hour on your speed, and you'd be out here for days trying to make this trek. A lot of vehicles carry chains. The semi-trucks use chains in particularly slick scenarios of getting up the very steep grades, but they've got heavy loads and minimal traction, so they need to rely on those chains. Up here in Alaska, it's pretty rare that you see any vehicles at all running chains. Instead, I stick with the good old trusty BF Goodrich KO2 all-terrains. It's got me all the way up here. So far, so good. Put a lot of miles on these things in the last 16 days on very compact, snowy, and icy roads.
عانينا كتير من هذا الفساد، عذابنا يزيد من الاستغلال. عانينا كتير من هذا الفساد، عذابنا يزيد من الاستغلال. لازم ثورات في أفريقيا اليوم، لازم ثورات في أفريقيا اليوم، لازم ثورات في أفريقيا اليوم. معاناة أجيال من هذه المحن، تعبنا خلاص من هذه الفتن. معاناة أجيال من هذه المحن، تعبنا خلاص من هذه الفتن. لازم نبني أفريقيا اليوم، لازم نبني أفريقيا اليوم، لازم نبني أفريقيا اليوم.
At 66 degrees, 33 minutes north. This right here is the Arctic Circle. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are officially into the Arctic. From this latitude moving north on this globe, there is at least one day out of the year in the wintertime where the sun does not rise above the horizon. And in the summertime, there's at least one day out of the year where the sun does not set. And that's what officially designates the Arctic Circle. To have made it this far in my van life journeys, this is a monumental accomplishment. Last year we tackled the Dempster Highway all the way to Tuktoyaktuk in the Arctic Ocean, and this year it's tackling the Dalton Highway all the way to Dead Horse and Prudhoe Bay, making it the furthest north that we can drive in North America. So to get here to the Arctic Circle, this is one step in the journey, and it's very cool to officially be in the Arctic. From here, we've got about another 65 miles to get into Coldfoot Camp, which is going to be home for the night. So got a bit more driving. I'm going to take in this moment here for just a second and then get back on the highway and continue north. Hell yeah, guys. The Arctic Circle. Made it to Coldfoot. I tell you what, that is a welcome sight to find some sort of civilization after about 250 miles through some really remote territory. It's good to finally find a fuel pump because the fuel light was on the van, and I was keeping a close eye on my range because not only does my transportation rely on diesel but also my heat, and I need heat to stay warm tonight because right now the temperature is about -3 degrees Fahrenheit. So I'm gonna get some diesel pumped into the van here, get settled in Coldfoot Camp, Alaska, up here on the Dalton Highway. The truck stop here at Coldfoot is definitely a busy one. The truck traffic here on the Dalton Highway does not stop whether it is day or night. These truckers are in here fueling up, grabbing some chow, and they're back out on the road running these trucks around the clock, keeping those oil fields completely supplied way up north.
Oh, I was sleeping. I think I have enough people that know who I am. I don't eat that.
No, you'd be like, well, I certainly gotta say it's not often that you get to go out to eat in the Arctic Circle.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Nope. Is there anything else I can get for you?
Nope, should be good. Thank you very much. So while I actually do have food in the van and a nice comfortable spot to eat, I figure, heck, why not take a moment to go out to eat. So I ordered myself a patty melt with a side of au jus and some soda water. Okay, before I jump into bed, I figured I'd come out and check the temperature outside right now in Coldfoot, Alaska. Looks like we're sitting at about minus 14, minus 13 degrees. Let's go inside and see how warm it is inside. Now right now, inside the van, we're sitting at about 62, 63 degrees here according to the Good Cook inside the van, and that is thanks to the diesel heater that is just clicking away, keeping us nice and toasty warm while it is freaking frigid outside. Here in Coldfoot, we are just starting into the Brooks Range, which I expect tomorrow we'll start seeing some fairly low temperatures, and the forecast for Dead Horse by the end of the week is calling for minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit, so we could be in for some very cold temperatures. For now, I'm going to go ahead and hit the hay, get a good night's sleep, because we've got quite the trek ahead of us tomorrow as we continue further north into the Arctic, into even more extreme territory as we cross Atigun Pass, the Brooks Range, and out onto the North Slope. We'll catch you guys in the morning. Waking up here this morning in Coldfoot Camp, Alaska. This was home for the night right here in front of the convenience store. Woke up this morning to minus 24 degrees Fahrenheit, which is down to about minus 31 degrees Celsius. It's downright cold out here. But today is the day. It's summit day. It's the final push to the top of North America. For the next 241 miles north of here is some of the most extreme driving conditions that you can find on planet Earth. We've got the Brooks Range, which holds the mighty Atigun Pass, up over the Continental Divide, out across the tundra of the North Slope of Alaska, all the way to Dead Horse. This is it, guys. This is where shit gets real. All the planning, all the thinking, all the preparation, all the dreaming of doing such an adventure while living in a van, it all culminates to this point right here. We got a mountain to climb, guys. Let's go see what this adventure has to offer. That's a freaking mountain right there. Just how rugged those cliffs are and the ice falls. I mean, from here it looks tiny, but I'm sure up close in person that is one spectacular ice fall. You don't get to stand face to face with too many rugged mountains that close. Not like that. That's freaking cool. Truly impressive. One of the cool things you get to see driving the Dalton Highway. Another cool reason that I enjoy coming and doing these ventures in the wintertime. Hell yeah, let's keep on trucking. Well, it is time to put the drone to work, getting into the heart of the Brooks Range. These mountains are getting quite rugged and spectacular. And luckily, we're doing this trek in 2023 and we have the technology to be able to help capture this journey with the drone. Such a unique way to be able to capture this landscape, how vast it is, how rugged it is, and to truly put into scale and to perspective where we're at and what we're doing. Definitely thankful to be a filmmaker in this modern day.
The home point has been updated. Please check it on the map.
Okay, that is our signal. We are good to go. We are hooked up to 20 satellites. And this is now our home point. Let's go ahead and launch this bad boy. Away she goes. We are in the heart of the Brooks Range now. Atigun Pass is just not more than a few miles ahead. Over the last year since I've had my eye on making these trips to the Arctic, I've done massive amounts of research. You read about all the hype, you watch all the videos that hype it all up, and then when you get here to the middle of it, you realize here you are. All the research, all the planning, all the preparation, and now you're here, hands-on, boots on the ground, eyes to the landscape. Hell yeah. About a mile ago, the trees completely disappeared, and now it truly feels like I am in the Arctic. This is certainly not something that you get to see when you make a trek like this up here in the summertime. I'm sure that this area has got its complete and magical majesty, during the summertime, but nothing beats getting to witness this landscape when winter has a dead lock on the landscape and the terrain and the land around here. This is truly spectacular. What an amazing experience, once in a lifetime opportunity to come up here and witness Mother Nature at its most extreme conditions. This here behind me is the mighty Atigun Pass.
150 miles north of the Arctic Circle, the haul road climbs over the Continental Divide at the forbidding Atigun Pass.
It is a steep 10% grade and the trucks come racing by to be able to make the climb all the way up. From here, they look like tiny ants climbing up the side of this mountain.
It's a recipe for disaster. With more than 200 accidents a year, this is the most dangerous stretch of the entire road.
This is the precipice for these trucks making it or breaking it and getting their loads up to the oil fields.
Less than 40 years old, the haul road has already racked up an impressively bloody track record, killing and injuring 400 people and wrecking thousands of trucks.
People don't realize what you have to go through up here just to get oil and keep oil flowing through that pipeline. A lot of hard work, a lot of hours. And the cold doesn't help a bit.
Thus far, the Sprinter van has been an absolute champion and has performed flawlessly, getting me up here safely into these extreme conditions. But through this whole entire journey, this van has been my shelter, it's been my safety, it's been my escape from the elements and Mother Nature's extreme winter conditions. So it's not just a vehicle, but it's also my home. And it's making the trek up here all the way into the Arctic. I couldn't have asked for a better platform to be able to come up here and make this journey. We're almost at the top of the world. We're almost there. But with that being said, we still got Atigun Pass to climb as we make our way over the Continental Divide and out onto the tundra of the North Slope. This adventure isn't over. We gotta get ourselves up and through this pass to the other side. We have officially made it through Atigun Pass. We have crossed the Continental Divide. Everything from here on out flows into the Beaufort Sea, otherwise known as the Arctic Ocean. We are now coming down out of the Brooks Range and will soon be out on the tundra of the Alaskan North Slope. That's so cool. Right here, this is living the van life. This is the kind of stuff when you actually feel thoroughly alive, out here experiencing the world, exploring the own, getting outside of your comfort zone, feeling what it's like to feel, feeling what it's like to just to live. Hell yeah. Whew. I'm currently about 50 miles from Dead Horse. The temperature has dropped to a very chilling minus 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Out here, as far as the eye can see in any direction, it is completely flat. It's completely barren. It is just wind-blown snow. This right here is the tundra way up here in the North Slope of Alaska. Once I arrived to Fairbanks, it felt like I was just right there at the edge. But after 2 days of solid driving up the Dalton Highway, I'm reminded that it is no joke making this trek out here to one of the most remote places on all of planet Earth. We're 50 miles away. We're almost there. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome you to Dead Horse, Alaska. We have made it to the end of the Dalton Highway. Many opportunities to come out on the vast wide open tundra of the Arctic to just sit down and take in a sunset. Perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, that is for sure. You know, as I sit here and think back over the 3,600 mile journey through some of the wildest and crazy remote landscapes, I'm reminded of what an adventure it was to get here, and how truly, truly special it is to actually be sitting here in person right now, looking at this unfold before me. There's not too many people that can say that they've been to the Arctic to watch the sunset, especially when it is minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit. You know, a lot of people ask me why do you go on these adventures and why do you do them solo? And if I'm honest with you, to me, it's a bit of a walkabout. It's an opportunity to get out, spend time with myself, and truly get to know myself better, inside and out. There's a lot of lessons to be had in experiences like coming up here in the wintertime and enduring the cold temperatures, pushing yourself outside the box. It's an opportunity to work out some demons within yourself, overcome them, and just become a better you. And over the years of doing that in my van life adventures, I've truly grown to thoroughly appreciate these kinds of walkabouts. Every time I go out and experience one of these journeys, I come back with a better understanding of who I am. And to me, that's important. I feel like anybody and everybody should take those opportunities. But a lot of people are afraid to go out and spend time by themselves, spend time alone. When you sit at home and you anticipate how hard something might be, it's easy to talk yourself out of those experiences or those challenges. But when you actually hurl yourself into the unknown, you push your limits, you can unlock special things within your heart, within your soul. You prove to yourself that you are capable. It's not a matter of proving it to anybody else, it's a matter of proving it to yourself. You start learning that if you put your mind to certain things, you can do just about anything you want in this world. And that's the most important lesson. All right, guys, I'm gonna get out of here and just enjoy this sunset as it unfolds before me. Awesome. Truly freaking awesome. Dead horse, baby. Dead horse. We made it. We freaking made it. Whew! Oh my god, yeah. Damn, feels so good. It's crazy to have driven what I've just driven to arrive up here to see this kind of operation. It is like its own entire city all on its own, way up here in the middle of nowhere. I'm now in search of a fuel station so I can get some fuel to my diesel heater, because we are going to need that this evening for sure. I arrived here in Dead Horse with a mere 50 miles left of range in the tank, so this fuel stop was a welcome sight for sure. Well, as I was fueling up at the station, the diesel heater actually ran out of fuel. Now, the way the diesel heater works is it won't actually use all the last bit of fuel in your tank. There is a bit of reserve left over for you to be able to get to a fuel station if you were to use your heater all the way down to empty tank. So that's how close we were to being out of fuel as we rolled into Dead Horse. Just got to prime the pump, get the diesel heater started back up. We should be good to go for the evening. Well, there we go. Crisis averted. Diesel heater's back up and going. We've got a full tank of fuel. We're on Dead Horse. All the way here at the top of the world. Into the Dalton Highway. This is it. I've made it. Now what do I do? It's been quite wild cruising around town, checking out the scene. It's like driving through a giant industrial park. Everything here is set up to supply the oil fields here. All the people that are here to work in the oil fields. And so it's very intriguing to cruise around and check out the happenings. There's not any sort of nightlife at all. Everybody's here to work. They go in, they get their dinner, and then they go hunker down for the night in preparation for work. This is going to be a bit of a urban stealth camp, if you will, here in Dead Horse. This is about as urban as you can get up here in the Arctic of Alaska. I am parked here by what is called a man camp. This is just a facility that houses a bunch of the workers up here for the oil fields. Across the top here, you'll see the structure that runs down these parking lanes. Hanging from these structures are electrical cords, and this is where everybody pulls up because it's so cold. Everybody needs to plug in their block heaters. This guy's plugged in his block heater. I went ahead and backed up here and unplugged from my Battleborn system, plugged myself in so that my oil pan heater is running through the night and I'm not draining on my batteries. It is currently minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit right now, which is very chilly. I've only been outside just a few minutes and I can feel my nostrils freezing, my mustache freezing, and ice starting to collect here. Whew. It's chilly. Chilly on the mustache. Chilly on the mustache. But inside the van, got the diesel heater pumping away. It is nice and cozy in there. You can't see any lights on inside the van. I've got the window coverings up, mostly for insulation, but also to keep my camping situation stealthy as I hunker down here just outside this man camp. Okay, we'll go crawl inside the van here. Try to make this process quick. We're nice and hunkered down here, way up here in the Arctic. It's gonna be a nice cozy sleep here inside the van. It is 54 degrees here inside the van. Top number there outside is minus 19 degrees Fahrenheit. So I've got the shiny side of the window coverings to reflect as much heat back into the van. Up here on the ceiling to make sure we're not letting any heat out of the roof vents. I've got insulated covers on those. On the front, I've got the front partition. This is an insulated with closed cell foam, and it is sealed off to keep the heat back here. Way in the back, I've got the insulated partition across the back window there. So right now we are insulated as much as we possibly can here inside the van. With the temperature in here sitting at about 54, 55 degrees, that's not necessarily the warmest or the most ideal, but considering that it is minus 20 outside, we're not doing too bad. I would consider this probably more like sweater weather here inside the van. So I think for this evening I'll probably put on my fleece pants and a hoodie and probably sleep with a stocking cap, and that should make for a nice cozy warm sleep all while it is frigid cold outside. Alright guys, I'm gonna kick back, enjoy some music and a book, and just relax after a long day's drive. I tell you what, that drive was long. There's a lot of hours and a lot of miles across that tundra once I got down out of the Brooks Range. I thought I was never going to get here to Dead Horse. So, but nonetheless, made it. All right.
Hello.
1:52 a.m. We've got an E08 on the diesel heater, and the diesel heater is not working. It's minus 25 degrees outside. It is 30 degrees Fahrenheit inside the van. That's not good. That's not good. I think E08 is lack of fuel. We've got a full tank of fuel, so if we're getting out of fuel codes, that means that the diesel fuel is gelling, best I can tell, but it's fucking cold in here. Come on, baby. It's going through another startup process right now. Come on. Fuck. Fuck, 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 fuck. Okay. I've got to at least go check and see what might be going on outside. I gotta wake up. I've at least got the sprinter van started. Without it driving down the highway at a high RPM though, it's not gonna generate heat. And this is why when I make these trips to the Arctic, I choose not to stay out in the wild in overnight situations like this, because if something like this goes wrong and I was a significant distance away from civilization, would not be a good scenario. This truly becomes a life or death situation at minus 25 degrees without a heat source here inside the van. That is just not survivable in being able to sleep in here overnight. I've got to figure out this heating situation right now. Aha! I found the problem! I found the problem! This is good, this is good. Ah, there we go. That was the problem. All that smoke right there is coming from the diesel exhaust, which means it's not getting enough oxygen to combust the diesel. The air intake was completely clogged and frozen up. Now with the clear air passage, that should allow the diesel heater to fire properly. Oh yeah, all right, we're in action. Okay, so this unit right here is the screen that normally protects the air intake from any sort of debris or anything, and it was clogged. Now that I've removed the clogged air intake, this thing should start to build enough heat and clear up the exhaust and start working properly. Well, that looks more like a properly operating diesel heater. The little bit of steam that we see coming out of the exhaust is just the condensation that is naturally occurring up here in these cold temperatures. But I bet we go inside, and I bet the temperature inside the van has risen quite significantly. All right, we're gonna jump inside and see what we can figure out here. Okay. Yes, 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 and yes. There is nothing worse than knowing that you have a problem, but yet you can't find the fix or the solution. But when you actually find the culprit of the problem and you're able to resolve the issue, then you know you found the fix. There's satisfaction in that, especially when your life depends on it. Well, we've already climbed 10 degrees here inside the van. All right. Oh man, that was a bit of panic there, not knowing what was unfolding. But that right there is a good sign. We were sitting at 42 degrees inside. When we left here, it was 29 degrees. So we are looking good. So this right here is the issue. These little holes are the air intakes, and after thousands of miles, 3,600 miles to be exact, all of that fine dust of snow that I drive through when it's this cold can all get collected up there, and especially when this is an air intake, it's drawing air into this. Anyways, these little holes plugged up with snow and eventually turned to ice and shut off the air intake. It doesn't take much for those to get clogged up. It's now 2:30 in the morning. I've spent an hour working on this. Already after a long day of driving, I'm ready to jump back in bed. Alright guys, I'll catch you in the morning. Hopefully, make it through the night. After a grand total of 3,600 miles, 90 hours of driving, after making that journey all the way up here, you get to the end of the road, and this is what you get to see. It's a sign with a dead horse on it, marking the end of the road. But it's more than just a sign. All the travelers who have made the journey all the way up here come and pay homage to this location right here by leaving their mark on the wall by putting a sticker on it. So you can stand here and look at all the travelers who've made this long journey all the way up here to the top of the world through some of the most remote territory in all of North America. It's not just a matter of coming up here to see the sign. It's a matter of saying that you've accomplished what few have done by making it all the way to the top of the world.
In 2009, I had just started with the company, and my boss asked me to hang these signs up, and no stickers, not one sticker on them. No one had really done anything with them. And over the years, it just one person started to sticker a decal, a plaque, a memorial, and now this wall is just covered in decals. It's a real destination for travelers coming up here.
Waking up here this morning, the temperature is minus 35 degrees Fahrenheit, and that's basically the same in Celsius as well. It's cold, it's barren out here, but this little town of Deadhorse is a crazy, bustling little industrial town that is up here for the black gold of oil. This whole entire town of Deadhorse and Prudhoe Bay do not exist without oil. Humans do not exist up here without oil. The sole purpose of anything being up here is oil. Everybody that's up here is here to do one thing, and that is work. I mean, there is not so much as a restaurant in town. There's no cafe, there are no bars. Matter of fact, there is no alcohol allowed in the town of Deadhorse. If you are caught with alcohol, you are either fired, kicked out, or asked to leave. They are that serious about it. After making the trek all the way up here, I figured might as well settle into the area for at least a day or two and get to know a little bit about what life must be like up here. I've been able to chat with a few locals, some that have been here for 15 plus years, and it has been very intriguing just to sit down and listen to the stories, a slice of what life is like.
My name is Terry White. We are in Dead Horse, also goes by the name of Prudhoe Bay. Geographically, it's like 3 miles from the Arctic Ocean. I think it's 46 below wind chill right now, which is comfortable. Dead Horse is an oil field town. It's just all oil field workers. Although nobody can live here, they come, they go, we do our hitches. I work a 21 day on, 21 day off. So 21 12s, fly back to the Pacific Northwest. I live in Montana, and then do it all again. About 9 hitches a year. We can get blows of 60, 70 mile an hour winds, 80 below wind chill. We'll get a phase condition to the point where you can't see me to you. That's when it really gets dangerous. There's no movement. People hunker down, shelter in place. Wherever you're at, you just stay there until that blow gets by you. Nothing wants to run, nothing wants to stay running. If a truck dies, you get a flat tire. Every job that in the summer would take you an hour takes you 5 hours in the winter. This is how bad it really can get. I spent some time in Arizona. At 115 above, you start up your rig to cool it down. Up here, you start up your rig to warm it up. 115 above and 30 below are real similar. It's really hard to survive at 115, and if you can't survive at 30 below.
This whole entire region is basically considered an Arctic desert. It only receives 10 inches of precipitation per year, which is crazy to think about. We think that, oh, the Arctic's got to have feet and feet and feet of snow, but really there isn't that much snow. The ground is barely covered. I'm looking out here across the tundra and I can see vegetation coming up through. Anywhere we see accumulations of snow in and around town is all brought in by the wind. The wind can become so extreme out here. Even a stop sign will create a giant snowdrift behind it overnight because it's enough to interrupt the wind and it creates a snowdrift. As I drive around town, a lot of the equipment, a lot of the structures have snow built up around it, and that is just simply because of the blowing and the snow that accumulates around anything that interrupts the wind. While I'm able to drive freely here in Dead Horse, which is a whole bunch of construction companies, it's a bunch of industrial companies here to supply the oil fields, anything north of here is completely shut down, and that is where the big oil camps are. A lot of the laydown yards in Dead Horse house a lot of the equipment that has been pulled off of the oil fields, either stored here for future projects or that are completely out of commission and eventually will be hauled out of here. It is very reminiscent of what you might see in Mad Max, just these giant metal structures that you could tell at one point were either an oil rig or some sort of industrial piece of equipment that was responsible for drilling the oil out of the earth up here. It's almost apocalyptic feeling in certain ways, especially this time of year where the snow will just encrust itself on these abandoned structures up here. It's crazy to be standing here face to face with such an immense structure, to think that at one point every piece of this piece of equipment here was hauled by truck down the haul road of the Dalton Highway from God knows where it was actually fabricated, but in pieces it made its way down the haul road all the way up here into the middle of nowhere. This at one point would have been a fully operational oil drill rig, and it is portable. That's exactly why the wintertime becomes so productive for oil companies, is because the ground is so frozen this time of year. They're actually able to hook trucks up to these immense structures and actually haul them out across the tundra, sometimes 10, 20, 30, 40, even up to 60 miles out across the frozen Arctic Ocean to be able to set up drill sites and drill for oil. You can see many of these oil rigs scattered along the horizon. Not only are they here in the actual town of Deadhorse, but they go for hundreds of miles out along the shore of the Arctic Ocean. Unfortunately, we don't have access to the Arctic Ocean this time of year because it's all on lockdown for the oil fields. The main operations of this whole north slope of Alaska lies north of here, and that is where the big oil camps are. It's basically a whole entire city at these construction camps. I hear stories of bowling alleys and movie theaters and these big atriums, and there's palm trees that have gardeners that are there to maintain the gardens in these atriums, and really just stuff that give the workers up here the opportunity to experience something different when their shifts are done and complete. Unfortunately, I'm not able to access any of that. It's all kept locked down under security behind gates. Well, this is normally the point that we'd be able to go access the Arctic Ocean, but there are no private vehicles, as the sign says here, allowed out on the oil fields. So therefore, this is the closest that we can get to the actual Arctic Ocean. We've driven all these miles, but yet we're just a few miles away from being able to see the actual ocean. There are no permanent homes up here. There's no apartments. You can't even get a P.O. box up here in the area. Basically, workers come up here for anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and then they have 2 to 3 weeks off at a time, and they fly out of here and they fly back home to wherever they're from. So they really do that to stave off the craziness of what would happen, especially in the wintertime, of what it takes to come up here and work. I was just working through this edit and realized that you guys are probably having the exact same question that I had while I was cruising around up in Prudhoe Bay, and I realized that I forgot to answer that question on camera while I was up there. You guys are wondering why all of these buildings are built on stilts, and you might be thinking things like, well, maybe it floods up there, which it doesn't, or maybe they're protecting themselves from bears or wild animals, which there are polar bears that do roam around up here, and there are actually grizzly bears as well, but that's not actually the reason why they've built these buildings on stilts. The reason why they have done this is because of the permafrost up there in the Arctic. In the wintertime, the ground becomes so cold that it actually becomes permanently frozen. As soon as mankind ended up here in the tundra, they realized that any structures they built directly on the permafrost, it ended up actually thawing out the permafrost, and it just becomes a muddy mess. So these big giant structures, they put them up on stilts so that the permafrost remains permanently frozen. If you didn't know, now you know. So it has really become quite the interesting experience getting to chat with some of the locals and just drive around and see what things are like. In an effort to get the full experience of what it's like to be up here in Deadhorse, Prudhoe Bay, Alaska, I thought for this evening I would get a room at one of the local man camps, take in the full experience, see what life is actually like as a worker. I'm going to take you guys inside and show you what that's like as part of the whole entire experience. So let's jump on inside here and I'll show you guys what that's all about. I want to show you guys this thing here. So if you guys see this structure, it actually runs the whole entire length of the parking lot. And you see these cords hanging down, just like I showed you guys at the other camp. These are where everybody plugs in their block heaters. We can see here, this van here has got their block heater plugged in. And my oil pan heater, I plugged it in here. So the van is going to be kept nice and warm here. And that is the hotel over there. Let's go jump inside and see what that's all about, because it is freaking cold out here. Okay, I'm making a run for it because it is cold. These whole camps remind me of like spaceships. I mean, they've got laundry rooms, they've got gyms, tons of rooms.
Like behind it, waiting for it coming at you.
Well, this looks like it's going to be home for the night. The cozy little abode. Let's take a tour. For $140 a night, up here in the Arctic, this is what you get. Looks to be a nice, comfortable bed, a shower, toilet. Over here we got ourselves a nice little workspace, a TV, a window. Well, you know what? It's not very big. It ain't much, but to be honest with you, it is a welcome little mini vacation from the van. Now, I'm used to living in my van full time, that's no big deal. The thing about this particular trip up here into this kind of weather in this kind of climate is the fact that you are in the van non-stop. There's been a lot of hours spent behind the wheel. There's been a lot of time just spent hunkered down in the van, living in the van full time, because when it's this cold out, you don't get the opportunity to go out and sit by the campfire. You don't get the opportunity to go out for a hike. You are in that van sometimes 24 hours a day with just barely stepping outside to fuel up. Getting to have the well-rounded experience of staying at one of the camps and seeing what camp life is all about. This is a cool opportunity and a welcome break from the van. So looking forward to just hunkering down here in my little mini abode and seeing what that's all about. So with that $140 a night, your meals are also included, which is cool. Sounds like it's a buffet style cafeteria, so I'm gonna go down and check that out, see what it's all about. Good morning, guys. Just waking up here this morning. Got a great sunrise happening over the oil fields here and Dead Horse. Had a good night's sleep. The bed actually surprisingly wasn't too bad. I slept pretty darn good. Been working here this morning, dumping some of the footage from the last couple days, getting that all archived on the hard drive. I did start the shower. Apparently it takes several minutes for the hot water to reach this far to my room. I'm gonna grab a shower here this morning, pack up, and start heading south and start this adventure home. At this point, the journey is only halfway over. We still got all those miles to get back to Washington State. One of the things that has piqued my curiosity while being up here is what happens if and when the oil reserves up here actually run out. There are actually written agreements in place with the Inuit people who actually own all of this territory, that once the oil is gone and the drilling is finished, that all the gravel that has been brought in, it all goes back to the gravel pits to fill those in. All of the structure, all of the buildings, all of the trucks, all the equipment, it all goes back to the way it was before mankind came out here in search of oil. That's crazy to think about. Everything's got to come back out of here just like it made its way in here in the first place. Besides the truckers who make the route up here on an almost daily basis, most people fly in, they fly out. People that have spent 15 years up here working have not actually driven the Dalton Highway. So to have made that trek across the Arctic and up here to this area, I feel very fortunate to have had that experience. And that just goes to show you how remote the Dalton Highway is. It's interesting to get a little bit of slice of life of what people go through when they come up here to work. Right now, I'm waking up here in the quiet little Alaskan town of Haines, Alaska. I'm gonna put my van on the Alaska Ferry and head south to Bellingham. And let's go see what it's like to take a ferry from Haines, Alaska down the Inside Passage through some of the most amazing waterways of North America back down to Washington. I just popped over here to the Rusty Compass for a morning cold brew and go through some of the photos. The ferry doesn't leave here this afternoon until about 4 p.m. So I've got some time to kill and enjoy the slower life of Haines, which is good after so many hours of driving, so much time behind the wheel, to kick back here in a nice cozy coffee shop and just slow the pace of life down a little bit. It's very enjoyable to be able to do that at this point because the last several weeks have been quite the adventure up north. So it'll be interesting to see how this journey down the Inside Passage on the ferry goes. What's van life like when you put your van on a boat and send it south for 4 days? We're gonna find out. Just getting here to the ferry dock, and this adventure down the inside passage starts with a hell of a bang already, with this amazing mountain terrain that comes right down to the ocean shores here in Haines, Alaska. So it's already truly spectacular, and the boat is just arriving here. So here we are, just about to get on the first leg of this ferry trip. This first journey is going to head out of Haines for about a 4.5 hour trek down to Juneau, which at that point going to have a 1-day layover, and then Sunday morning at 9 a.m. we'll catch the next ferry, which will be a 3.5 day trek down to Bellingham. Just like that, we are all packed in the belly of this ferry, and we are headed to Juneau. There is limited to no access to the vehicles while they're down here underneath the ship, so I've got to get my stuff out of the van that I need up top for the next 4.5 hours for this journey.
Good afternoon and welcome aboard the Lacani. We are preparing to get underway from Haines for Juneau. All ashore going ashore, all ashore going ashore.
Just like that, we are leaving shore and setting sail. Got ourselves a 4.5 hour journey headed southbound. What a freaking gorgeous way to be able to experience Alaska. Being able to cruise up and down these fjords of the inside passage. These mountains right here behind me are so up close and personal. It's like you can reach out and touch the mountains right now. It's so cool. It's chilly out here, the seas are rough, but the boat actually handles it quite well. Such a cool experience, and this journey is only just beginning. The sun's going down and it's getting even colder. I need to go inside and warm up my fingers. Go see what the inside of the boat is all about. Well, got warmed up, had some dinner. We're just pulling into port at Juneau. Gonna make it back down to the car deck, get the van, and we're off the boat for this go around. Just like that, we arrive in Juneau, Alaska. Got about a 12-mile trek into the downtown area. We'll head that direction and see what we see. Made it up here to Juneau. I'm gonna do a bit of an urban stealth camp. Got the van posted up here on the street. Now I know the first thing everybody loves to say anytime I mention stealth camping is, dude, everybody knows that you live in that van and da 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 da. I'm not trying to convince somebody that I'm not sleeping in the van. My whole idea is not to be jumping in and out of the van. I don't have lights on. I'm not getting my lawn chairs out, setting them up. Pull into town, I park on the side of the road, I quietly go to sleep, I mind my own business, I keep my area clean and quiet, I cause no disturbances, and I get away with it all the time. So that is what we are doing here tonight, downtown Juneau. We're gonna hunker down tonight, get a good night's sleep. The diesel heater is going inside. The battle-born batteries are keeping things powered inside there. I got my lights on dim in stealth mode thanks to my tinted windows. I also like to park in line where there are a bunch of other cars parked around, and it's kind of like hiding in plain sight, as I like to call it. Everything's good. I'm looking forward to getting a good night's sleep. Van life, urban stealth camping in downtown Juneau. I'm just waking up here downtown Juneau this cold and blustery morning. I was wondering if Juneau is just always this windy or what the deal is, but I checked the weather. What's that?
Are you vlogging?
Yeah.
Your vlog?
It's called Living the Van Life.
Living the van life?
Yep.
Oh, check it out. What's your name?
I'm Chad.
Chad?
Yeah.
Leona.
Right on. Nice to meet you. Cheers. That's one thing about always having the camera out. People are always curious about what the hell you're filming. Why are you talking to this camera? I do get a lot of people actually interested in what I'm doing, so that's cool. Anyways, I checked the weather. Turns out there is a severe windstorm warning, gusts up to 70 miles an hour last night, which I can certainly vouch for that. There was freaking wind whipping right through downtown here, so made for a wild sleep last night. Man, this wind is crazy and it's cold. It's about 23 degrees Fahrenheit, so with that wind chill factor coming in off the water makes it even colder. had it?
The bacon mushroom's pretty good. It's just bacon, mushroom, and egg and cheese.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, just like a basic breakfast burrito.
Yeah, I'll do one of those.
Okay.
I'll do a white mocha, 16 ounce.
16.20.
Thank you very much.
And we'll have the drink ready now.
Okay, cool. So as I've spent my time up north in the Arctic, the schedule is so hectic, the conditions are so crazy that I've really fallen outside of any sort of exercise routine. So now, as I've been able to slow life down a little bit in my journey south, decided while I'm here in Juneau off the boat, might as well go out and get some exercise. And that has been an opportunity to come out and hike out to the Mendenhall Glacier. So that's what I'm out doing here today. Go see if we can't see what a glacier looks like up close and personal. Comes down off that glacier and out across this flat lake, and it gets to freaking howling out here. Yeehaw! And then there's times where the wind's almost dead. The crazy thing is you can see it coming across the lake in waves of snow that it picks up and blows across the surface. It's good to be out here getting some exercise though, I'll tell you that much. Crazy. I've been walking at least for well over a mile at this point, starting to approach the glacier, but as you start getting closer, you start realizing the immense size of what this thing actually is. Still probably got another half mile to go just to get there, but wanted to stop here at this point and show a little bit of the scale from still a ways off, a little bit of a distance. Pretty incredible though, that's for sure. Man, what a cool opportunity to be able to walk up face to face with an actual glacier. I've heard of people being able to take boat tours and kayaks up to the edge of these glaciers and stuff, but out here I was able to walk across the lake, and now I'm standing face to face with this incredible glacier. The crazy thing is you can hear it snapping and grumbling as we stand here, as these glaciers are continually moving and shifting their way down the mountain. Man, that's so cool. Good morning, guys. Waking up here this morning in the ferry terminal parking lot. Our boat has arrived here already, docked up, waiting for us to board. This is the Columbia today. It's a much larger ship, significantly larger than what we rode here on the last leg from Haines down here to Juneau. It is a crisp morning. It's about 19 degrees waking up here this morning, but it is a beautiful sunrise. Okay, the challenge that I'm up against at this point is getting everything that I might need ready to go and in a bag so that I can take it on board with me. I have limited access to the van while we are in motion, so I've got to have everything packed and ready to go. And after living in a van for so long, I'm just so used to having everything that I need at my disposal, like a backpack. My van is like a backpack. I've got everything I need in it and it goes everywhere with me. So when I don't go somewhere with it, it's like chaos. But I think I got it. It's almost go time. I'm gonna be on this boat for 3+ days, headed down the inside passage. Supposed to be some of the most spectacular scenery that we can see of the North American coastline. So I'm excited to see what we run into. So far out of Haines, it's been pretty spectacular for sure. Holy freak, it is cold outside. Well, we're back to feeling like 19 degrees out is actually cold. After spending 4 or 5 straight days in minus 35 degrees, there was a time where 19 degrees would have felt like a heat wave. But unfortunately, it's back to feeling like it's cold. All right, at this point, I gotta get the van over into the ferry line, get this thing all staged up. We'll be boarding the boat here before too long. Okay, they got us packed in here like sardines. Make my way up to the top and go figure out how the rest of this boat ride's gonna go. Gotta figure out how I'm gonna get checked into a cabin, see what that's all about, etc. Hope I've got everything. I have no idea how this is gonna work. This is all an experiment going into the unknown. Bye bye, Mr. Sprinter Van. See you in a few days. Yeah, home sweet home. I mean, I guess it's like, it could be worse. It's not bad. Definitely gonna need more pillows though. But it is bunk beds. If I wanted to have friends over, I guess I got a spot where they could sleep. Got a window, although it's not necessarily the cleanest. Got myself a nice little sink with some soap, more extra towels, storage space. Let's go check out the bathroom. All right, and a shower. Well, I gotta say, it's not too bad, actually. I mean, I'm used to living in a van, so the fact that I can walk around, I've got a bathroom and a shower, hey, we're doing pretty good here. Most people would probably be like, oh man, what the hell am I gonna do in here for 3 days? I don't have to stay in here the whole time. This is just, you know, the sleeping quarters. I'll be spending most of my time out on the rest of the boat. I spent the day in the lounge area. I set up my computer, did some editing on all of this footage that I've been capturing up here in Alaska. So now that the sun is setting, I figured I'd come outside and enjoy myself a sunset because this is freaking awesome out here. Definitely glad that I took this opportunity to ride the ferry back to Washington after having already driven the Alaskan Highway twice now, as well as the Cassiar. Pretty much covered all the land bases, the overland routes of getting into Alaska. And now to be able to be out here on the boat, especially on an evening like this is just the perfect way to experience Alaska. Down the Inside Passage all the way back to Washington. Super cool. Good morning, guys. Just waking up here this morning after my first night of boat life. And to be honest with you, I actually slept really good. I've always heard that though, that a lot of people sleep really well on boats just because of the rocking of the motion of the ocean, I guess. Maybe, perhaps. Anyways, I'm just getting up, getting ready here. We rolled into Ketchikan, Alaska last night about 3:45 a.m. I was woken up by the announcement, but I'm not getting off here, so I just kept sleeping. But anyways, we are actually docked up here till about 3 p.m. this afternoon, so it actually is an opportunity to get out and about and go check out Ketchikan, see what it's all about. So I'm just getting ready here this morning, getting myself dressed, and I'm gonna go cruise around Ketchikan and see what Ketchikan's all about. I've always heard about Ketchikan, first time being here, so let's go see what we got. Well, I don't think there's any sort of Uber service in Ketchikan. Maybe I'm wrong. There could be. I didn't look. I need to exercise anyways. But I'm gonna see if I can't huff it into somewhere downtown Ketchikan. Go find myself some lunch, some breakfast, coffee shop, something. Go see what we got. Go see what Ketchikan is all about. Ketchikan, Alaska. Well, I'm beginning to find it a bit comical. Every time I show up to these little towns where the cruise ships show up, you can always tell the part of town where they show up to. There is a whole lineup of jewelry stores. Not right now, because in the wintertime there is no cruise ship, so everything's all boarded up. I found the same thing up in Skagway, but nonetheless it is cool to cruise around downtown Ketchikan and get a little bit of a flavor of what it's all about. This whole area down here solely relies on tourism. This time of the year, when there is no tourism, everything is boarded up. All the businesses are closed down. It's interesting that they don't have enough to keep this area open. All the locals must go and stay in a different area and do their business and their daily routines elsewhere in town. I was just coming down here looking for a cup of coffee and a cool spot to hang out, but everything's all boarded up this time of year. Or maybe it's just that Ketchikan locals just don't like buying jewelry or diamonds. I think that's about all there is you can buy down here. That and the occasional salmon. Okay guys, let's do a little bit of a boat tour here on the MV Columbia. Now here on the Columbia there are actually a total of 5 different decks. There's the main deck, there's the upper deck, the cabin deck, the boat deck, and the bridge deck. 5 total decks. That's a lot of decks. Get your mind out of the gutter, I said decks. Lots of decks. Now I'm not gonna lie, it's actually pretty easy to get lost on a boat. You think, okay, you're on a boat, it's not that big, it's not that easy to get lost, but in all honesty, it actually is easy to get turned around. So here on the upper deck is where the first 63 cabins are located. Pretty much on this deck, it's only cabins. That's where my room is. Now when we go up one deck to the cabin deck, that's where we have another 39 more cabins located. There's also laundry service, there's also showers available. There's an observation lounge as well as a recliner lounge. Also up here is the first opportunity we get to go outside on an open air deck. As we can see out here right now, this is starting to look like a true Pacific Northwest scene with all of these rain clouds. It is a gray day out here outside. It's a good day to be hunkered up inside your cabin, doing some editing, doing some reading on a book, or just plain old enjoying some boat life, whatever you do on a boat, I guess. But here we are outside the MV Columbia. This is the first deck that you can get to outside. Lots and lots more cabins. Next we'll go check out the observation lounge. It's where you get a view out some windows towards the front of the boat so you can see where we're going exactly. Now we go up yet one other floor, and that is the boat deck. And up there we've got the snack bar, the dining room, and another forward lounge. So I have actually found the snack bar to be a great spot to hang out. Not because there's snacks there, but it's just a good spot to be able to plug in my laptop and get some editing done during the day when there's not much else to do. So snack bar is a good spot. Then as we go up one other deck, that is where we find the solarium. Now it is also the bridge deck as well, but we cannot go to the bridge. That's where the captains are and everybody that's piloting this boat through this adventure. Now the cool thing about the solarium is that it provides you an opportunity to be able to come outside and enjoy the view, but be out of the elements. After all, this is the Pacific Northwest and this is Alaska, and even in the best of times in the summertime, the weather can be quite inclement, whether it's rain or wind or both or all of the above. So the solarium is a viewing platform up on top of the ship that provides you coverage with windows, but also here in the wintertime they've got infrared heat lamps that provide you some heat, and you've got just a wide open expansive view to be able to enjoy this awesome terrain and this journey that we were on. And especially right now, this is pretty fantastic. Well, good morning, guys. Just waking up here on day number 3 of this adventure down the Inside Passage. I slept exceptionally well once again, even though these staterooms are nothing super exceptional or luxurious. They are definitely very comfortable, and even the small tiny bunk bed actually sleeps really, really well. So waking up here this morning refreshed, I went down to the dining room and had a nice breakfast with a wonderful view out the back of the ship. It's a good way to wake up and start the morning. Well, it has been 2,560 miles since I left Dead Horse up in the Arctic. 750 miles of that has been here on this boat. We're on day number 3. And sadly, tomorrow morning we'll wake up bright and early and we'll be in Bellingham, and this trip is complete. And to be honest with you, I'm feeling a little bit melancholy about it. Really have settled into boat life and grown to really appreciate this downtime. Today I spent some time editing videos. I also spent a few hours reading my book from Dan Grech about his travels from Alaska to South America, and have really enjoyed just the downtime to relax and take in the beautiful view. At this point in the journey, we are just coming down near Vancouver Island, and the views are getting spectacular. The snow-capped mountains are fewer and far in between, but the rugged coastline here of Vancouver Island and Western Canada is stunning, and it's a cool trek through here. And of course, we're greeted by some gray, rainy skies to welcome me back to the Pacific Northwest of Washington State. It's beautiful out here. Definitely an amazing journey this boat ride has been. Well guys, this is it. This is the end of this particular van life adventure. It's crazy to think back over the last 1 month. It seems like it was just yesterday when I was rolling out of Northwest Washington and looking at the open road ahead and all the miles there were to overcome and all the hours of driving to overcome. And it seems like it was just yesterday, and you set out on those kinds of adventures out into the unknown, especially this time of year and these kind of elements. You just don't know what you're going to come across, but you find that you just have to push yourself forward with as much confidence in your vehicle, in your gear, in yourself, most importantly, up here. And it's crazy to think back. It seems like it was just yesterday when it all began. But having made the 3,600 miles, 126 hours of driving all the way to Dead Horse Prudhoe Bay, this adventure's coming to a close, and it's definitely bittersweet. The journey north, the northern lights, driving through some of the most extreme winter conditions, nearly 1,000-mile boat ride. It's bittersweet when an adventure comes to an end, but when an adventure has been this grand, you feel like you're taking away a true gift. I definitely feel like this has been truly an amazing life experience, and for that, I'm thankful for. Alright, I'm gonna finish packing my things. You guys know what to do. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, share, like, leave your feedback in the comment section below. I'm out of here, guys. Peace out. Keep on trucking. We'll see you on the next adventure.